Hey everyone, how we doing today? This is James Sweeney, aka SplitSuit. Welcome back to another video. And in today's video, we're going to review a hand sent in by Alastair, and Alastair just wants me to review this spot with Ace Jack, played at 20 no limit. So without further ado, let's jump into it. So in this spot, we're playing four-handed. We have Ace Jack in the big blind. There's a steal from the button, call from the small blind, and Hero decides to 3-bet. And Alastair in the write-up says this: I wanted to send this hand because I'm working on expanding my 3-bet range and quickly realizing that you do get into tricky spots, especially with a deep SPR such as this. And in this spot, the button is 29-24, 3 over 18 hands, which Alastair admits is not a ton, but enough to probably suggest that he's opening wide from the button, and he could probably squeeze Ace-Jack suited for value. So first and foremost, I love the fact that we're squeezing here. Yes, 18 hands is not a ton. Yes, this dude is probably stealing, and yeah, totally cool squeezing Ace-Jack. Now, as for the size, which is going to be really important, I would much prefer to go something closer to 4x here and just take this up to like 250 and go from there. I don't really want to go only 3x here. All of a sudden, button's getting a great price plus position, so he probably calls, and the small blind comes along as well, and now all of a sudden it's a bloated three-way pot. And it just doesn't really do anything because I probably wouldn't squeeze this for $1.80 for value. I'd probably go larger for value, so I also need to keep my bluffs in that same range, and thus I think 4x is going to be a much better multiplier here. So definitely in the future go larger. As played, get called, and go three-way to the flop. So in this situation, the small blind checks, Hero decides a continuation bet for 310, and we really have to decide if we like the c-bet, yes or no. In this situation, a middle-ish connected board is one that I typically don't do a lot of c-betting on in multi-way pots, just because these are the kind of boards where players are going to hit a very non-zero percentage of the time. We have a hand like Ace-Jack, so we block out combos of overcard hands like King-Jack, Jack-10, all those kind of things. Well, Jack-10 doesn't go anywhere on this board, but you get the point. So it's one of those where, like, you're not getting a lot of folds here, in my opinion. You're certainly not getting two players to fold a very large chunk at a time, so you already have to be looking towards double and triple barrels. And against the small blind, you don't have enough flexibility for that. And yes, we do have backdoor flush, backdoor straight, overcards. We have all those kind of potentials, but I don't think we have a lot of fold equity here or later. So because of that, I don't particularly love this c-bet, and I'd much rather just check here and kind of see what the button does, maybe get a free card, and go forward from there. I think just firing out here is not going to be a very fruitful play, and you chances are don't have a lot of plans for turns, and especially if there's any chance the small blind could continue, and I think there's a very decent chance of that, not super in love with this bet. But we end up getting called by the button, small blind goes away, go to the turn, improve, and Hero decides to go for a check, and then check call of 6.10. So here's the thing, if you don't continuation bet the flop, you don't really ever get to the turn the way this hand has played out so far, so keep that in mind. But one thing I want to say is this, just looking at the rest of the hand. Hero decided to go check call on the turn, river decides to check fold. Okay, so keep that in mind as we kind of talk about this. So when you just check call on the turn, right, what do you represent? You represent probably a single pair or a draw that just doesn't really know what else to do or decides that check calling is best, right? So maybe you're checking to induce more bluffs, it is what it is, you decide to check call. But if that's the case, when the river completely breaks out, you kind of have to continue with that call, right? Otherwise, what are you ever continuing with in a situation like this? That's something what you want to consider. But if you took the line on the turn to check and induce bluffs, you have to assume there's going to be at least some bluffs on the river, right? Maybe he turns something like 8-7 into a bluff, or 5-6 into a bluff, or busted diamonds into a bluff, or maybe he's betting 9x for whatever, thinking that it's for value and that you're somehow going to call with, I don't know, ace king or pocket sixes or something like that. But either way, you can't be certain enough that you're smoked here, and if you're going to take the check call on the turn, you have to take the check call on the river. It really doesn't make much sense to play it this way and then fold here. It just isn't something that you want to be doing. But again, the major things in this hand, squeeze, awesome. Just make sure to size a better preflop. On the flop, if you're going to continuation bet, you need to have plans on turns and rivers, especially when you actually improve on those cards. And I don't really love this line as played because in the write-up, Alastair did mention trying to induce bluffs on the turn, and if that's the case, then follow it up, induce that bluff on the river, and make sure to call it and expect to win the pot a very non-zero percentage of the time. So Alastair, thank you very much for the great hand. If you or anyone else has a poker hand you'd like me to review in a video, feel free to send it to me directly at splitsuit.com/send. You can always ask me a poker question at splitsuit.com/ask. If you enjoyed this video, please make sure to like and subscribe, and if you have any questions or thoughts on the hand, feel free to drop a comment. Otherwise, I'll see you back next week with a brand new video, and in the meantime, good luck and happy grinding.